Hello again, everybody. I'm Caleb. Welcome back to Caleb's Come Through Cinema. Before I get started, of course, I got to encourage everyone to like, share, and subscribe and comment. Help the channel get some notoriety and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. I am back today with a new movie review. I've been planning this review for a good month or two. It's a movie related to a franchise that I really love, and I've actually never seen this movie before. Of course, since I've watched it once now, but before that, I'd never seen it before. Yeah, and I've been really excited to talk about it because I love the franchise, and I wanted to experience what the movie was like and see what all the fuss was about. I'm of course talking about the 1994 Double Dragon. Of course, this is the live action adaptation of the video game series. I've said before that I love the Double Dragon video game series. My very first experience with Double Dragon, I've said before, but I'll just give a quick recap. My first experience was with the animated series, which I believe ran from 93 to 94. I was a few years older than that whenever I got that first VHS tape. I had a VHS tape of the cartoon series that had a couple of episodes on there, and I remember just watching that show, or that tape rather. I remember watching that tape a lot. Obviously nowadays the show, it doesn't hold up very well. It's not a very faithful adaptation of the video games. It was very clearly a show made for kids, and it was made to sell toys, as many shows and movies were back then. But nevertheless, it is an entertaining show. I think there was a little bit of fun to be had. I still watch the show even nowadays. Both seasons are on Tubi, and so I've watched the show on there quite a bit. It's still entertaining in some ways, even if it doesn't hold up that well. But other than the cartoon, the very first Double Dragon game I ever played was the Super Double Dragon for the Super Nintendo. I remember playing that game a lot, and that's still one of my favorite Double Dragon games to this day. I also, of course, have some other Double Dragon games in my possession. I've got the first game for my Game Boy, and I've got Double Dragon Advance, obviously, for the Game Boy Advance. I've got Double Dragon Gaiden for my PS4, and whenever I go to my local arcade, I always play the Double Dragon 1 and 2 cabinets that they have. It's a very fun series. But of course, I've never seen the Double Dragon movie before, so I wanted to check that out and just talk to you guys about it and just give my overall thoughts. However, I'm not alone here. I'm not doing this one by myself. I have another friend, very special friend, who is a very big fan of the Double Dragon franchise. He loves the games, and he wanted to give his first thoughts on the live action film. So without any further ado, let's welcome back from Martial Arts Theater 3000, my good friend Jason.
Hey Caleb, just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to review this movie here, because I, growing up, loved the video games, especially the original Double Dragon. When I first saw that, I think I was around 8 years old. It blew my mind seeing that in the arcade. I had never seen anything with graphics on that level, and since then, I've always loved the franchise. But for whatever reason, I just never had an interest in watching this movie when it came out. I think because the reviews were bad, and I don't know, a lot of the movies at that time, especially based on video games, were pretty rough. So going into this, I didn't know what to expect at all. And my initial impression is there's a lot of potential here, but this is watching it, 30 years later. If I had watched this when I was 12, 13, I think I would have enjoyed it as kind of like a Saturday morning, cool, fun movie that you don't take too seriously. And I liked how they really tried to incorporate all the different aspects of the video game into the movie itself. It just seemed pretty inconsistent for me. Like one scene, you go, wow, that was great, some good fighting. Then the next scene had some clunky fighting and some really bad special effects. And then you could see where they put all the money in the next scene for the special effects. So it was kind of like all over the place a bit. But for the positives, I think overall, Mark Dacascos stole the show. I think his martial arts were hands down the best, obviously, of all of them. And he went on to such a great career with John Wick and, all those movies along the way. But him as Jimmy and with Billy, played by Scott Wolf, I thought that was really good chemistry, and good chemistry with Alyssa Milano. The villains, Robert Patrick, it actually took me a minute to realize he was the evil Terminator in Terminator 2, the mustache. I don't know, he was kind of interesting. He was really slimy, but he wasn't that intimidating unless he got the medallion. So I do think this had a lot of potential, but it definitely fell flat for me. The acting was just so cheeseball at times, just like you know it's going to be cheesy for these movies, but it was just overboard. That a Bobo character, that was pretty cool. They tried to match the crazy look of the video game. I just think if they would actually went a little more towards the video game when it came to just martial arts and maybe a little bit less of the supernatural overall, I think it would have been better, like if they grounded it a bit. But it was cool to see like a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles and some pretty cool fights, especially when Mark Dacascos came on screen. And the fight where the villain entered Mark Dacascos and as he fought against his brother, I think that's definitely the best part of the movie. So I don't know, I kind of land this maybe around 5 out of 10, I'd give it. I think it could be a little better if it had just went for a more grounded approach, but as is, I think it's kind of like a middle of the road video game movie. But I actually would probably watch it again. There are some fun aspects and it had some funny moments and it also had some cringe moments too. But yeah, so that's my take on Double Dragon. Back over to you, Caleb.
Thanks, Jason. I really appreciate your input and really great points made in your segment there. I definitely agree with most of what you said. However, I mean, there are a couple of things that I probably didn't quite see the same as you. I'll just go ahead and give my thoughts here, and then we can wrap this up. Personally, I don't really think. I didn't really like Scott Wolf as Billy. I do think him and Mark Dacascos have good chemistry, but at the same time, I just didn't really like the way the character of Billy Lee was written. He's very what's the word? I guess quippy would be the way to say it. Most of his dialogue is just cheesy one-liners. Some of them are good, and then some of them are just very cringe. But his yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really like his just every second just like throwing a one-liner or a joke in there. I don't really know if I like that all that much. And Scott Wolf, his choreography is okay, but I think when you compare it to other people in the movie, like mainly Mark Dacascos, Scott Wolf's choreography was lacking in some areas. I do agree, however, that Mark Dacascos is definitely the highlight of the film. He is very good in this. I like him playing. I like him, being the older brother, being the one who tries to be a little more reasonable and smarter about things. His choreography is excellent. Mark Dacascos is a really great martial artist. Alyssa Milano is fun too, although there are some strange things that definitely happen in this movie, like especially when we get the introduction to Alyssa Milano's character, Marion, and her gang, the Power Corps, when they're facing the wall with the graffiti and they just turn around, like were they standing there facing the wall the whole time? I always thought that was funny, or not always, but seeing the movie the first time, I thought it was pretty funny. Robert Patrick, he's entertaining, a really great actor. He's one of the best in my opinion, but he's entertaining, although very strange in this as well. He does have some good lines though, like some of the stuff he says makes me laugh. Like I love when he tells a Bobo, I love you like a son. I might be paraphrasing a little bit. He says, I love you like a son, which means, I could always have another one or something like that. Or when he says, I just want control of a major city. Is that too much to ask for? It's got some fun dialogue right there with his character. The fight scenes are pretty good for the most part. I do love seeing Mark Dacascos on screen. I love seeing him fight. But other than that, there are just a lot of other things that I didn't really care for. It's like the character Lash, for example. I'm sorry, I mean no disrespect. I'm forgetting the actress's name, but the actress who played Lash in the film. I didn't really like her performance all that well. I'm really sorry, I can't remember her name, but I didn't really like her all that well. For a majority of the film, her character seems kind of confused. I don't know if that was intentional or anything like that. But then the way they made a Bobo look was very strange. There's also a lot of screaming in this movie, which I thought was kind of weird, but also kind of funny. But I don't know why everybody's screaming so much in this one. But yeah, I mean, and I also just I didn't really like the idea that, yeah, and they kind of did this in the cartoon where the main characters Billy and Jimmy Lee, where they're competent enough, but then they get superpowers and then they're like unstoppable. I didn't really agree with that either. You know, the Double Dragon video games were never really about that. It was more focused on the martial arts themselves and not the and not like the superpower aspect of it. You know, I wish they could have just been really good fighters and stuff like that. Because I don't know, I just don't like how they kind of how the characters kind of come off as you know, sometimes kind of like bumbling idiots, but then they get superpowers and stuff like that. But overall, I still had a good time watching this movie. I would definitely say it's probably a 5 out of 10, maybe for different reasons, slightly different reasons than Jason, but it's still an entertaining movie. I definitely see myself watching it again, just if I want to have a fun time and stuff like that. There is definitely fun to be had, and the potential was definitely there, but I just don't think I don't think they really succeeded. I would like to see a new Double Dragon live action film that's more grounded, such as Jason said. I think it probably would have worked out better if it was a little more realistic. And personally, I'd like to see that one day. So hopefully we'll get another Double Dragon movie that's a little more grounded, a little more faithful to the adaptation, or a little more a more faithful adaptation to the game. Sorry, but yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Check out the Double Dragon film if you haven't seen it. If you have, let me know what you think in the comments. I love to hear from everybody, and let me know if you've played the games, what your favorite game is. Yep. I appreciate it. So yeah, thanks again. Like, share, subscribe, and comment, all that good stuff. Hit the link tree in the description, and you guys can check out my my podcast, the Retire podcast, also called Kaleb's Kung Fu Cinema. It's still available for everybody to listen to, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.